Self-acceptance is probably one of the most important tools you could have throughout your entire life. Because at the end of the day, you are nothing if you don't accept yourself. At least the way I see it. And through this lens, I want to show you something through the world of Part 8. And in Part 8, I really want to specifically talk about two characters that portray this in two very, 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 very different ways. Those characters being Joshu Higashikata and Josuke Higashikata. Two characters who went on two very separate, very different journeys of accepting themselves, or rather, with Joshu's case, he accepted himself from the moment we saw him, but he went on a journey rather from just accepting himself to slightly changing himself. Not too much, because again, one of the fundamental key parts about Joshu's character is he is a hopeless character. That's been stated by Araki in some interviews. If I can find the photo, I will, but it's been stated. Araki stated that he's created hopeless characters. He actually stated this within the past year. Few years. He stated that he loved created hopeless characters, and he stated that Joshu completely fits that stereotype. But within him being a hopeless character, he accepts that. Even when he couldn't protect his father, he accepted the fact that he was weak in that action, and that's why he was so quick and eager to try to protect Yasho the best way he knew how to, even though that was a very, very, very creepy way. That's why. But through that self-acceptance, we see him do something that actually ends up helping. Because again, Joshu himself in the One Review fight wouldn't have been able to do much, not gonna lie. But Joshu losing his arm in order to sacrifice his arm for Yasho to fully heal ended up helping her reach Josuke and them fight on One Review and Toru. This is definitely like a loose analysis, but I wanted to give that really prelude, because as I was thinking of the idea, I thought of Joshu a little bit, because again, I feel like Joshu, with him, he's so unapologetic in how much of a douche he is, because that's really truly who he is at his core. It's not like he's faking that. It's not like he's pretending to be that. No, he's really this, and most of the things he says, he really believes, especially about himself, he really believes. That's true self-acceptance. And through that self-acceptance, even though again, kind of sick way, it allowed Yasho, him, a lot of them to basically make it out alive at the end of Part 8. But you cannot talk about Part 8 and self-acceptance without talking about the man, the myth, the legend, Josuke Higashikata. With Josuke Higashikata in Part 8, we get to see this full in-depth scope of the hardships of accepting yourself, who you are truly, whether that be through, racial, sexual, whatever personal struggles you're going through. We see, and Araki does it in a really interesting way, because he does it by, now he's introducing fusing in a way. But in this fusion, they lose both sides of his memory, and he's just a person in the world now. Because the fusion created a completely new being. Well, not completely new, because it's still their DNA, but like new mental state. Completely new mental state, I could say. And at the start, we see how his motivation slowly shift from very personal, he wants to find himself, accept himself, where that it's never a moment where he loses them. There's never a moment where he really loses those motivations, because later in the part we see him go from those personal of wanting to again understand who he is and belong, to now finding acceptance and belonging in this new life after learning about the previous lives of the two people he once was. And that's why, and even accepting parts of those previous lives and protecting something that both of those people who existed individually previously shared a same goal in protecting Holly, which I hope she comes back at Part 9. Just saying. I hope something's done with that storyline. Just saying. And really with Josuke, it's very interesting watching him, because you're watching him turn from just a person, literally. And I actually talked about this before, because I had seen a comment I had seen a comment just like talking about it basically, but I had talked about this before. Josuke, him standing the way he does at the beginning of part 8, because you know that really iconic picture of this nigga just standing there, and like it became a meme and everything, but he's standing there because he doesn't have any real expression of self. Because when you think of the other people or the other characters in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, they're all posing through their expressions, but Josuke, he was essentially like a newborn in a 19-year-old's body. He has no memories. He couldn't do anything for himself. He didn't remember even his own house. Like honestly, when I think when it comes to character journeys, Araki, he's over the years he's transformed the way he's able to write them to now they're very, very fluid, very, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they weren't before, but they're very fluid, they're very strong holding. Because when I think about Josuke's journey and personal identity and sense of self, I understand that this is literally a person who's trying to find a place in the world and trying to, instead of becoming what he previous was, elevate into something new. And that's literally what we see through part 8. Because by the end of part 8, that's when he's fully able to really accept his name as Josuke Higashikata. Not, Akira or, whatever. Josuke Higashikata. Like, through part 8, it shows this, it shows Josuke creating his own path and forging and creating an identity and sense of self for himself, instead of immediately going back to what one of them was doing. Even when he does eventually reach Kira, or go back to Yoshikage Kira's original goal of saving his mother, he does it not necessarily because she was his mother, but he does it because she had in some ways became his own mother through the way she was helping him when he almost died to the equivalent exchange due to the flow of calamity. He does things and he takes on these goals and he creates these goals as his own in order to create and forge a new sense of path, which is another reason why me personally, if I never saw Josuke 8 again, I wouldn't necessarily be too mad, only because his journey was dead complete there at the end of part 8. It's complete. He's forged this sense of self. He's created a life through connection, through new connections and love. He's now in his own eyes and through his actions, he's a completed person. And that's really where the contrast between rock humans and humans come from, because humans, they use love and they use connection, they use these things to forge and build new paths, while rock humans usually use isolation and strategy. I mean, both use strategy, but more strategic, more lone, more cold, distant. I feel like if I had to wrap Josuke's arc up in a single sentence, it would essentially be like, if you don't accept yourself, who will? You know what I mean? If Josuke wasn't to accept himself, even if everyone else accepted himself, he would still be chasing something that was of his previous or one of his previous lives. He would still be looking for that, trying to reach that. Instead, he accepts himself. He accepts what future connections can come from, and he looks to seek those connections, even though originally he was looking for the truth about himself. Because that's why once he finds the truth, part 8's not just over. Okay, you found the truth, but now there's a whole different, deeper truth that's threatening your new connections, your new way of life, your new love. Are you going to face that? I don't know. But if you did enjoy this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace.